Welcome, everyone. We're here with a new episode of Energy, Connection, and Courage at Work. I'm Rebecca, and I've got Natalie here with me today, as usual. Hi, Nat.
Hi.
Are you excited for the conversation we have with our friend and colleague, Stacy Bick?
Yes, I'm super excited.
Stace, you are our Chief Experience Officer, our good friend, and you are going to be bravely very much the focus of our attention. How are you today?
I'm nervous because you told me I have to talk about my feelings.
And unlike me, who loves to talk about her feelings and drives her family nuts by asking them to always talk about their feelings, this is not a comfortable space for you, right?
No, not at all.
Okay, but we love to do uncomfortable things on this podcast. And so we are going to jump in with an uncomfortable conversation about emotional energy today. So, if you all recall, we have honed in on this energy component. In episode 2, we talked about spiritual energy or connecting with our purpose as the foundation for nearly everything else in our life. Last time we talked about physical energy, which is the quantity of energy that we bring to our moments. And today we're talking about emotional energy, which is about the quality of our energy. Now, emotional energy is interesting if you think about it because all of us, we are emotional human beings. We have emotional experiences all the time, every day. But most of us were not brought up in homes, we're not educated in schools where we learned a lot about emotions. So we didn't learn to name them, to recognize them, to regulate them, to process them. And so we grow into these adults who experience a lot of feelings, but don't really know what to do with them. And especially in the workplace, emotions have been kind of a taboo thing to talk about, almost as if we are all supposed to just leave all of our personal and emotional junk at the office door and perform at a high level all day. But of course, that's not how humans operate. Our work side and our self side are very intertwined. And so, what we're learning through the work we do with clients is that we have to get comfortable and skilled at talking about naming and recognizing and regulating and processing emotions because they really lie at the heart of high performance, high engagement, and our ability to stay connected through the hard times in the workplace. So, today we're going to dig in. We're going to share with you one of the tools in our toolbox that we share with individuals and teams and leaders that helps us regulate emotional energy. And this tool is a particularly good one if you're experiencing emotions that you might classify as stress. So, stress is this big umbrella term that means lots of different things to different people, but we can all kind of agree that it means uncomfortable emotions. And so, what you're going to hear today in just a few minutes is Natalie guiding Stacy through an experience using this tool. And with that, Nat and Stace, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Beck. And so, one of the things I think our audience might not be aware of is that we've been on this journey over the last year, maybe a little bit longer than a year, in really trying to be intentional and authentic about the way we serve our clients and the way that we actually work at Vital Work. And so, part of that journey has included bringing in Stacy, and Stacy has skill sets that Beck and I do not have, and she's been part of this process with us, which means sometimes we're not sure what we're doing and we change our mind a lot. And Stacy doesn't really know what I'm going to ask her today, but I'm going to ask her about that journey. And Stacy, what I would love to hear from you today is I want you to talk about the most stressful thing for you at work. And I want you to think about your biggest stressor at work. What comes up for you in terms of why does it feel stressful? Are there any fears that you have? What has the potential to happen? And just tell me about that stressor.
You're just making me go right to my emotions. Okay. I think my biggest stressor right now in work is the lack of autonomy I feel in my role and not necessarily feeling trusted in my role. I feel really vulnerable in my role and my place in the company. This lack of autonomy and mistrust, it has me in an uncomfortable space of being almost disengaged in projects at times, maybe a little lost in terms of what I'm even supposed to be doing, not really connected to the work, not feeling excited about the work. And I think my biggest fear around that is the perception that you and Rebecca have for me, whether or not I am able to meet the expectations for the role, as well as am I capable?
It makes sense. And so, as you've been experiencing the stressor of feeling a lack of autonomy and a lack of trust, have you learned anything through this process?
I think what has been wonderful about this experience is I've definitely learned a lot. Prior to coming here, about a little over a year ago, I worked as a high level executive in an ad agency for almost 20 years. And the idea of Beck set us up and said, in the corporate world, we're taught to like leave our emotions at the front door and go in and function at high capacity. That was my life. We didn't talk about our feelings. We just go in and we do the work. And here it's a very different experience. Beck also said in the beginning she loves to talk about her feelings, but I think really she likes to get to the core of what the problem is. And so my learning through this process has been to confront those emotions and those feelings and say, okay, well, this is coming from somewhere. What's happening? And then to be open to them and then having a conversation with you and Rebecca, those hard conversations while they're challenging, and to be vulnerable and share with you that I feel that way, it's definitely been helpful for me to drop my armor a bit. So, definitely learning through the process to be open to the hard conversations and learn from the emotions that are coming up. So, rather than disengaging, I'm leaning into the uncomfortable feelings when Becky tells me I have to. And looking for what's behind it, what's happening there.
Yeah. I think what I hear you saying is you were part of that corporate environment where we leave our emotions at the door. And by going through this experience of feeling like you have a lack of autonomy and maybe you're not trusted, what you learned through the process is how to get to the core of what some of the problems are by actually confronting and engaging in some of those hard feelings. And, I think we both know we've had over the last year for sure some hard conversations, and I heard you say that you've learned how to drop your armor and engage. And so I'm curious if any of what you have learned through this difficult process could be helpful to you in other ways, maybe in your personal life or as you grow professionally.
Yes. I mean, I think having the knowledge and the learning from this experience just to be open and be okay with the vulnerability opens up new opportunities for me all over in my relationships, not just at work, but also with my family and my friends. I think holding on to the idea of having to be strong and hold it all together and that armor all around me, I'm realizing now that when I am willing to let some of that go and be more open and to have some of those hard conversations, that there's actually change that happens.
And can you talk more about the change?
So if I look back on my career in 20 years at the ad agency, just the same scenario kept replaying over and over again without the support of you and Rebecca being models for having these hard conversations and being able to confront the tough challenges ahead of us in a healthy way, the repetitive behavior would still be there, or I wouldn't be because I came from that environment already and not really interested in doing that again. So I would imagine that if we weren't having those conversations and I wasn't open to receiving feedback from you and learning through this process, I would have already completely checked out or given into self doubt and removed myself from the situation.
I would imagine being in that place impacts the way that you actually work too.
It's a practice. So it's reminding myself when those feelings come up through our conversations, it's a reminder for me to say, okay, this is challenging. This is hard. Normally, I would maybe disengage or have no interest in actually working on that particular task or that project and not feeling connected. And now it's an opportunity to lean in, and I have a sense of optimism and excitement around what's on the other side, right? Like what challenge and what will result in the actual task, the work that I'm doing, not just the emotional work, but the actual work that I'm doing for Vital.
Yeah. I asked you to speak more on change because I was assuming you meant you felt change within yourself. I think I hear you saying that, but I also heard another part, which was, in an old corporate environment where we leave our emotions at the door, when those conversations and the dropping of the armor doesn't happen from a strategic standpoint or processes standpoint, things don't change. They just remain the same. And so, what you've noticed through this experience over the last year of feeling a lack of autonomy and distrust is that when we're able and willing to be open, to be okay with being vulnerable, to drop the armor, what happens as a result of that is we change moving forward and things can be different.
Yes, 100%. And I noticed that too with other relationships like my husband. So I think the process, while it's been happening at work, has opened me up for opportunities to take some of that, whether it be subconscious or consciously. It's now a new learning that I am able to see unfolding in my life. And I don't think I would have been able to draw that parallel without you just saying that to me right now.
I love it. And so I heard you at the beginning of our conversation where I was asking about your biggest stressor, where you said, I feel vulnerable and uncomfortable and disengaged and disconnected. And there's a fear around what your perception of me is. And what you've said now, more recently, further along in the conversation, is that I feel optimistic and I feel a sense of excitement. Do you feel anything different in your body when you're talking about and thinking about those difference in feelings?
It's so funny you say that because just as you were reframing that, I had a shift go through my body. When we were talking about it early on, first I was already nervous about having a conversation about my feelings, but just having said out loud the idea of feeling lost and vulnerable and disengaged, my armpits were sweating, my face is flush. And then when you reframed back the sense of optimism and excitement, I just had a smile really that just came across my face. So, yes, definite changes in my body.
I love it. And one of the things that I think we notice when we're self aware of our emotions and we're able to self regulate a little bit more is that the way we feel directly impacts our body. Our body is looking for cues from the brain and from the mind. And so when you feel uncomfortable, disengaged, disconnected, that's going to result in a feeling in your body. And I heard you say, I felt sweaty, and that felt a certain way in your body. And that's also going to impact our behaviors. Our feelings directly impact how we behave. So that's going to look and feel a certain way when we're at work as well. Obviously, it's same situation. There's still feelings of a lack of autonomy and lack of trust, but we're able to be able to pull out the learning opportunity and even see how the experience is helping us not just at work, but at home. It exudes different feelings in the body, different emotions, and feelings of optimism and excitement are going to feel and look differently behaviorally as well. Stace, I so appreciate you sharing with us here today. I know you didn't know what to expect, but I'm really appreciative of it. And I think it's really powerful to hear a person talk through, this is my story, this is how it makes me feel. And when I choose to pause and pay attention to the emotions and lean into the path that I want to be on, we can change really the way we feel, the way we behave, in our direction at work and in life. So thank you again. So I'm going to hand it back over to Rebecca.
Oftentimes, we'll guide a group of people through this cognitive reframing exercise focused on helping the individual feel better, change the stress response so they can behave differently. But what just occurred to me as you guys were talking about engagement is that the reason people disengage at work or their performance suffers is because they have unprocessed emotions. They haven't been able to talk about something hard sufficiently. They haven't been able to process the emotion. So they shut down or they attack. And so I'm realizing that for those of you who are like, oh, this conversation about emotions is just so squishy and I don't like it, I totally get that. But because we're emotional beings, if you want a group of people who are highly engaged, then it's necessary for there to be an environment for them to be able to talk about and process hard emotions, which come with hard situations. For me, this was neat because I just got the direct correlation between high engagement and the ability to talk about and process emotions with each other.
That's my exact experience. I had felt myself disengaging, and I think, Beck, you even felt it for me and even said, "We need to have a hard conversation, and you need to have a conversation with Natalie too." And so we've been talking about this, not in this way, and for that reason, I continue to be engaged in the work, but without having those conversations, I would continue to be disconnected from the 2 of you and from the work and feeling like I'm a part of the team.
Yes, I love it that we all just had a learning. So that brings us to our one big thing. For those of you that are listening, we would encourage you to just do a little bit of self reflection this week. And the self reflection is to identify your biggest stressor, can be at work or in life, and walk yourself through the process of cognitive reframing. We have a guide for you if you're interested. It's just a quick PDF download that will ask you a series of questions that will help you sort of reframe this stressor. That will be linked in the show notes. And that's your one big thing for the week. That leads us to our very last section of the show, which we don't have a title for, but it's something about tidbits or one interesting thing or a secret or something that we each share that the others don't know about each other and that you all definitely don't know. I'm waiting to think of what mine is. Who wants to go first?
My tidbit is I have a very nervous habit of going anywhere without my water bottle. If I do not have my water bottle with me, I am a train wreck. I am always thinking about where am I going to get water? What if I'm thirsty? So I never go anywhere without a water bottle.
I have literally turned around. I've been in the car on my way somewhere and been like, "Oh my god, there's no water in the car or in my purse." And I've turned around to get a water bottle, and I always think, "What if someone chokes?" I know we drove around for many decades in life without Stanleys and water bottles, but for some reason, I'm totally with you. Must have the water.
And it's gonna
I
help me if I'm
don't know,
choking?
like, if someone's, like, eating a granola bar and they get a piece stuck in their throat, they have to have water to wash it down.
This seems like the appropriate time for me to say, I never bring water anywhere because I forget it and leave it behind everywhere I go, and it's still mostly full. I'm sitting at my desk in my home office right now, and I can see in my view a mug, a water bottle, and another water bottle out in front of me, 3 of them. I leave them everywhere, and I would never turn around to go back and get water either. Everyone's gonna choke in my car.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here with us. We do ask if you have any feedback, things you love, things you don't like, stuff you want to hear us talk about, you can email us. We'll just go old school email info@vitalwork, V-I-D as in dog, L, vitalwork.com. We loved being here with you today, and we'll look forward to being here with you next time. Bye, everybody.
I'm Rosie Ward, and this is Show Up as a Leader. To learn more, head over to peopleforwardnetwork.com and, of course, hit that follow button.